I will now like to request Dr. Musadik Malik, who's the Minister of the State and also a spokesperson for the Prime Minister of Pakistan, to talk to us about leadership in the age of disruption. Let's welcome Musadik. Yeah, that's good. Much better.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I have a 20-year-old son. He's going through college. And while I was sitting here listening to all of you, I realized that he would be retiring in 2060. 2060 is when my son, who's 20 years old, would be retiring. And I don't know what 2020 is going to look like. So how do we even figure out? How do we even gather or begin to fathom the competencies or the skills that are going to be required by 2060 when my son retires? And that's the question that I was dealing with as I was sipping on my coffee and listening to the Uber talk and many of these other talks, and they're very interesting. So all of a sudden I realized that what we're talking about is taking a position in the history of future. So if we want to be successful in Pakistan, what we'll have to do is first imagine a future and then basically figure out what it would take to succeed in that future. And then for the next, I think this is not working, there's some problem. And then begin to ask ourselves, what are those building blocks that are going to be essential for my son to retire as a successful man, as a man who's actualized himself. And to me, that's what human resource management is all about. That's it. And I started to think a little bit more, and I realized that future is anything but a linear projection of the present in which we live. And I'd give you some real examples from Pakistan. So if I give you the Pakistan of the 1960s, the Pakistan that Dr. Umar Saif was talking about, the Pakistan in which you needed permits, the Pakistan that was purely post-colonial, in which the only relationship that mattered was the client-patron relationship, you wouldn't be able to predict the Pakistan of the 1970s. Imagine that Pakistan which was all legalistic, living in the image of Jinnah Sahib. You know, even the thugs of that time spoke in a legalistic manner. Friends, Romans, countrymen was the only conversation that could transpire between the state and its people. And just go 5-7 years and what do you get? You get Mr. Bhutto standing on a train station, on a bogie, talking to the people, and he tears open his shirt and he throws buttons at people and say, bring these back to me when I'm in the Prime Minister or Presidency, and I would not disappoint you. This conversation was not possible in the 1960s between the state agents and its people. And over 7 years or 8 years, everything changed. The modes of production changed. The modes of distribution changed. Even your clothes changed. Who could have imagined that your Taya, that aggressive, big man, would wear colorful shalwar kameez? There were only 3 colors that men could wear: white, gray, and if you were really flamboyant, a Boski color. That was it. These were the only 3 colors that were allowed in our religion. And then you began to see people in pinks and oranges and blues and yellows just in 5 to 6 years. Even your national anthem changed. You know, from Pak Sar Zameen to wherever you went, it was Jeeve Jeeve Pakistan, Soni Dharti, and so on and so forth. Now, if I gave you the Pakistan of the 1970s, you wouldn't be able to predict the Pakistan of the 1980s. कहाँ पे all idioms of violence, रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान, पकड़ लो, मजदूर, किसान, खून, सरमायादार, और कहाँ पे चादर, चार दीवारी, तहफ़्फ़ुज़, जिहाद, इस्लाम. All idioms of violence caved into idioms of containment. And this happened only over a period of just about what? Another 7 years. So my friends, the only point that I'm trying to make, and I'm not giving you the examples of Apple and Google and so on and so forth, I'm saying anyone who makes an assumption that future is going to be a linear projection of the present, even in Pakistan, is living in a la-la land. Any policy or strategy or core competency that you wanted to build for the 60s was not relevant in the 70s, and whatever you built in the 70s was not relevant in the 90s, and I can go on and on and on. Suffice to say that whatever you're talking about today is already dated and irrelevant. So think again. Now that brings me to the next question: how to think again? What would it take? If the future you can't see, then how is it that you're going to put your arms around this future? And my submission to you is that your only hope in hell is imagineering. The only way for you to move forward is to imagine a future. And then ask yourself, not what you can do, but what would it take to succeed in that future? Not what you can do with the competence that you have, but what are the building blocks of your organization, your corporation, or for that matter, for the nation, in order for us to move from where we are in 2016 to when my son is going to retire in 2060. Now, a number of people have been asking questions, so I was challenged to ask some kind of silly question. Now, how many of you have seen this black and white Star Trek? When I was young, and most of you are much younger than I am, but there was this Captain Kirk Star Trek, Spock, Data, Captain Kirk. How many of you have seen that? And what do you remember from that? Anyone? What do you remember from Star Trek? Yeah, beam me, Scotty. What else do you remember? That transponder? The little thing that he flipped open and said, "Beam me, Scotty." What else do you remember? Where no man would dare to go, space the ultimate frontier. What else do you remember from Star Trek? That little button that you pressed and you got your coffee. Before the second or the third season of Star Trek was over, all of these things had become realities. That little transponder that they pulled out became the first generation of cell phone. And Mir Shakilur Rahman, I very clearly remember when I was young, in his blue-colored Mercedes, would park the car by Liberty Market where all girls can see him. And one of his servants would carry a big box, and he would carry this brick of a telephone, standing outside by Liberty Market, making sure that anyone and everyone who drove by, particularly girls, saw that he had one. The first generation of microwave was that button that you pressed that became your coffee. That was your microwave. And everything, Mr. Spock, who I think was a hybrid of humans and Vulcans, became Dolly the sheep. And for the past 25 years, we've been expressing human monoclonal antibodies in the ovary lines of rats and mice and whatever you can think of. So all of the things that we have spoken about, all of the things in Star Trek became a reality within 5 to 6 years, 10 years, 15 years max. This is the power of imagination. This is Imagineering, where you're asking yourself not what you can do, but you're answering a simpler question of what it would take. And in that process, you're not only building your competencies for the future, but you're also constructing that future as you go by. And that, to me, is going to be the future that we have. And much of this future, as I have just mentioned to you, has already arrived. Just look around. Just look around, and what do you see? You see this science of cognition, this understanding of cell, which is basically creating immortality. You're creating this nanotechnology where the understanding of atom is creating machine. You're creating this science of informatics, which is taking bits into virtual reality. And all of what I'm talking about is not the future. This is the future that has already arrived. These are the things that have already happened. The retina that you drop in your eye, what do you know what it is? Is it engineering? Is it physics? Is it material science? Is it biology? The nano pumps that are going to ride in your body and titrate your blood levels for insulin, and are going to then inform a nano pump which is going to be molecular to express insulin, absolutely titrated to your requirements. What is it? A biology? Is it chemistry? Is it engineering? What is it going to be? The little Google goggle ads that you see, which are going to talk to you as you walk by and tell you turn left, not right, the other right, you idiot. These Google goggles are a reality. And there are retail shops in the United States as we speak. They're getting piloted, where you go, walk in, and there's no one. And you pick up a bottle and it credits your account, debits your account. And you don't like it and you put it back and it credits your account. And then you walk away. That's it. All you need to do is go pick bottles. It's automatically chasing you, scanning you. That little thing that you wear on your wristband, what is it? A watch now? A healthcare system? What is it? What is it that you're dealing with? This reality has already arrived. This is not future. This is the present. And we are talking about 2060 when my son is going to retire. And I'm trying to imagine what it's going to look like. And these young men and women who are sitting in this room, who are going to be the architects of my son's future, what are they thinking about? How would they facilitate, empower him to become that man who would die knowing very well that he actualized his life? Because to me, that is all there is to HRM and nothing else. Death very soon is going to be an illness. We already have in the labs, we already have mice living 3 times their age in the labs. We already have tapeworms who are living 7 times. 7 times tapeworms are living their natural life in labs as we speak. Imagine 700 years of living, because it takes about 15 to 20 years for these lab technologies to get commercialized. So maybe not me, maybe not me, maybe not you, but my children for sure are going to live 700 to 800 years. And their children are going to look at death as an illness. So the fundamental question that I pose to you, the HR gurus of our time, is, are we ready for all of this? There was a professor who was writing, and the chalk fell from his hand. He said, "Damn gravity." Then he bent down, he picked the chalk up, he looked at the class, and he said, "But you know what? Gravity doesn't care." So ladies and gentlemen, this future is arriving, with you or without you, because gravity doesn't care. And the only question that I was posed to you as the architects, as I said, of our future generation, because once they are let go from doctor's college, his university, they are in your safe custody. So what would it take is a question that you have to answer. I am not going to stand here and even pretend that I know what those answers are going to be. But I know what they are not. I know they are not the systems that you're talking about. I know that they are not, because your systems are dated. I know what they are not. The competencies, every single one of you, the ones that you've spoken about, is not what it is, because the ones that you're talking about are all already dated. So something much more broad-based has to happen. Something which is not in a cog, which is not a cog in a little hole, has to happen to our future generations if we want to succeed. So I couldn't think of much. So I only could think of diversity. I looked around and I saw people I saw people in shirts, I saw people in suits, I saw people with neckties, I saw people without neckties, I saw ladies in dupattas, I saw ladies in trousers. I saw diversity. And Pakistan is one of the least diverse countries in the world, least diverse. We don't even tolerate each other's opinions. Set aside gender, which is big. We want to find, even amongst Muslims, Muslims who can tell other people that they are not. And even in that country, I see all of this diversity. And I am not talking about New York, and I am not talking about other parts of the world where no two people believe in the same, speak the same language, believe in the same God, do the same thing in the same way. I'm talking about Pakistan, and I cannot digest the diversity in Pakistan. So this diversity has to be celebrated somehow. This uniqueness that you have, the epitaph, every person's epitaph is going to be different. Every person sitting in this room is writing his own biography as you speak, and the only human thing that is human, innately human about us is that we can change our stories. Dogs cannot. Dogs generally do not, but humans do. They write and rewrite their stories. They're diverse and unique. So no attempt for uniformity is going to succeed. You are custodians of an enormously diverse talent. And you are not hiring billions, millions, hundreds of thousands. You're hiring a handful of people. Can you not take care of them? Can you not begin to see them for the potential that they really are, rather than trying to put them into this uniform system of HR, which would allow for something to happen over a period of time and then you would monitor it in a standardized manner? No, it's not going to work. These people are unique. You're picking off 20 million or 200 million people, you're picking 100 or 300. Our children would have no future if you continue to have this desire for some kind of standardization. So the culture that you have to build for the future that we are not yet, and I only say yet because we are not yet, is to celebrate this gift of diversity that we have. I'm not an HR person, so I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but I can tell you, you would be challenged to do it in times to come, whether it be Uber, which was about 10 dog years ago, or many of these other things which have already dated. So that is the first point that I would try to make, that you will have to inculcate somehow or the other this idea, this gift of diversity that we have. The second thing that I would like to bring to your attention is what Dr. Umar Saif was talking about, and I got quite intrigued by, and he's absolutely right on the dot. What are we trying to do in our HR systems? Curtail human curiosity? Because that's what this conformity, these engines of conformity that you're building, the worst example of which is the government, the bureaucracy. The worst example. But you are no rocket scientists either, let me tell you. Because I've gone around and I've worked quite extensively with the private sector of Pakistan. So the desire for conformity is not limited to the bureaucrats in Pakistan. Even the private sector in Pakistan is pretty bureaucratic. So if you cannot basically ignite this idea of curiosity amongst 200 or 700 or 900 people, who knows how much potential they have? How are you going to tell someone what to do unless you inspire them, you make them curious? Because once they're curious, they would figure out. Then they don't need you to move forward. They'd be curious to figure out, and their curiosity is going to be your edge. Their curiosity is going to be your competitiveness. So my friends, it's not going to be conformity moving forward. It's going to be curiosity. So again, I challenge you on the second account, that what processes do you have in place to take these individuals who are not large pool of standardized equipment, and invoke this natural, innate desire and curiosity that human beings have. What are you going to do? Which of your processes, which of your strategies, which of your assets, which of your reward systems, what about your governance is going to invoke this curiosity is a fundamental question that the HR society of our times will have to answer. And the third and the last thing that I would propose is that the third, perhaps the most important thing that you will have to think about is creativity, innovation. At the heart of which is curiosity, but curiosity is not alone innovation. Innovation has its own ecology. So how are you going to take this individually diverse pool with unique capabilities, invoke curiosity within your systems and processes and governance? And how are you going to marry in all of these things to create an engine of creativity? Something original. Not how to do better what you're already doing at your companies, because your companies are going to be no more. You were already informed that the average age of a corporation is 15 years. You already know that. You've already run out 11. You have 4. So what are you going to do in this 4, which is going to prepare you or give you a lifeline, not of another 15, but just 7? Because this is a logarithmic progression. What was 100 before, what was 70 before is 15, is going to be 7, is going to be 2. So if you don't have that engine of creativity, then you are going to die, because gravity, as the professor said, does not care. Every time you would let go of this chalk, it shall fall. And an important thing which was mentioned today was that if you want to do something creative, are you ready for failure? Are you going to be, your HR systems, are they going to be punitive towards making mistakes? Because mistakes do not lend themselves to creativity, but by God, if you're not willing to make a mistake, you can never do anything creative. And like the government bureaucracy, if you're going to be punitive, if you're going to do the audit paras on 71 keys or 91 keys or howsoever many keys there were, then by God, you're going to die. And this is not limited to just the public sector. So what in the next 3 to 4 years are you going to do to get a lifeline for the next 7 is the fundamental question that I would like to leave with you today. And you don't have a lot of time to answer it. So there are going to be people in your organizations who are not going to move no matter what you do. And there are going to be people in your organization who are willing to move. And then probably most of the people in this room are the people who are going to move. So celebrate the gift of human ingenuity. Stop thinking about cliched HR functions. Times are changing, and you're in the middle of that storm. You're in the eye of that storm. And I would ask you one last time, are you ready? Thank you very much.
Musadik Malik, please don't go away. Please don't go away, come back on the stage. And I'll also like to invite Pastor Saeed to be here on the stage as well. Sayyid Wakarul Islam, Dr. Umar Saif, Badr Khushnood, and of course, Musadik Malik. We'll have a group photograph. And of course, I will like to invite Asfar. Please, Asfar Asad, come here. May I also request Anis Ahmed Saab and Agha Zafar Saab to also on the stage. So we take a group photograph, and we have some gifts for you. And this is from Section. Is that right? Sensation, sorry. This is from Sensation. And I will like us to facilitate that. Maybe if we stand it this way. ठीक है जी? ऐसे भी ठीक है? Okay, please, I also want to be part of this. this group. I'll hide this paper in my pocket somewhere. And Asfar, are you here? Yeah. Everybody's here. So, well, somebody has the gift somewhere. Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Okay, in the meantime, all of us can go and take tea. I will urge and request that we, to manage time, we take kind of a working tea and then come back, and we like to start by 11:30 again. Thank you very much.